Okay, so Tim Osman and I agree on a lot of things, but one topic that we seem to have disagreed about for years now is how these things happen in media, such as movies and TV shows and what have you, and sports events, how these things happen that almost seem to quote-unquote predict the future. And of course, the most obvious examples have to do with 9/11 and 3/11, but it happens all the time. And so the question is, how does it happen? Why does it happen? Who's really behind it? This is one area where Tim and I seem to disagree. So in this video, I'm going to read out his tweet from today, my reply to his tweet, somebody else's reply to my reply, and then I want your opinion. I want you to tell me what you think. Yes, you dear listeners all around the world, listeners and viewers here at johnlebon.com and the John Lebon YouTube channel. I want your opinions, and I want you to tell me whatever your opinion is, why you believe that when it comes to explaining these things. And I've got an example that I'd like to focus on. This one here. This is from an episode of Quantum Leap from the early 1990s. And it appears to have predicted the outcome, or at least a substantial element, the turning point of the game of a Super Bowl. And they even mentioned the team involved in this episode from before the Super Bowl that took place. Not only that, but if you watch the episode for yourself, you'll notice a few other things that seem truly remarkable. And so some people will say, well, that's because whoever made the TV show knew the outcome of the Super Bowl a few years later. The same people are involved in the whole thing, or something like that. There are other people, I happen to be one of them, who suspect that actually there's a different explanation for this. And it goes way above any particular group of humans who are quote-unquote scripting this. So we'll get into all of that in just a moment, but first I want to let you know that the latest Late Night Truth Lounge is available. So this was live streamed 2 days ago, and with all of my Late Night Truth Lounges, I then take the video version, convert it to MP3, I get rid of the dead air, I make the audio more balanced, and then I publish it via my Podbean. So it's available for free, link in the info box below. It's about a 2-hour episode, and the first maybe hour is spent replying to a voicemail that I received from somebody who's trying to get to the bottom of this flat earth stuff. And he seems to have a bit of a bee in his bonnet with regards to nobody died, nobody got hurt. No, with regards to Eric Dubay, or as he calls him, Eric Dubai. So I responded to his voicemail, I responded to the live stream chat, and I spoke about the history hoax and other topics. So if you want to check that out, that is the latest Late Night Truth Lounge, 2 hours long. It's available in the comment section below. If you go to the comments below this video on YouTube, you will find a link to that and to so much more. So let's get back on with this then. This is the tweet from Tim Osman, the president of the Infinite Plane Society. He says this: predictive programming is predictable. We know what movies will contain it just by seeing who directed it or by looking at the trailer. It also connects to political agendas 100% of the time in a timely manner, often concurrent with the issues of the day. The theory that predictive programming is magic, occult, or done by a supercomputer is an outmoded truther orthodoxy. So I replied, what do you think about the idea that creative people may be tapping into a higher energy, whether they know it or not? That is, the ideas which come to them seemingly out of nowhere are actually coming from that higher energy. For want of a better term, higher energy or a collective consciousness. There are different ways you can try to describe it. None of them really do the job I'm looking for, but I think some of you get what I'm trying to get at here. When you hear creative people, be they music writers or filmmakers or authors or whatever, when you listen to them speak, sometimes they'll talk about how they don't know where the idea comes from. And some of you can relate to this. Maybe you've written some poetry, or you've written some music, or you've written your own short stories or books, or whatever the case is. Where do those ideas come from? Where do they come from? They just seem to pop into your head. What if those ideas are not just popping into your head out of nowhere? What if you are tapping into some unseen energy? Again, I know that word's not perfect, but what if some of the creative people we look at, it's the same thing for them? So it looks as though they know the outcome of a Super Bowl years ahead, or it looks as though they know there's going to be some major event in Manhattan featuring 2 gigantic towers. Maybe. That's what I'm trying to get at here. So that was my question to Tim Osman, and then I got a reply. Let's go and check this out. This reply comes from Synchronicities, who writes, "It can be confusing because genuine synchronicity does exist, and the intense mental focus of the creative process can seem to trigger it. I'm sure you've noticed this when working on your own creative projects. You can go in with an initial intention or idea, and then new elements can magically pop up that further enrich the creation and make it seem like something that was meant to be or even divinely inspired. Could it be possible that something similar happens when creating psyops and writing metascripting? They start with a script, and then new elements arise in the creative process, which can end up making a complex network of seemingly impossible connections, some intentionally scripted and others naturally synchronistic. It's funny because I've had syncs pop up many times when researching suspected psyops that are very personal to my own thoughts and focus at the time. I was actually looking into some stuff recently in response to something JLB discovered related to the Key Bridge collapse. His investigation led him to a crazy connection that was specifically personal to him. This led me to my own research rabbit hole where I struggled with this question of sync versus scripting. JLB versus IPS, LOL. And that research immediately led to some discoveries related to the Batman universe, specifically the character of the Penguin. So just like so many times before, the thoughts in my head at the time, JLB versus IPS, seemed to manifest a related sync that took the whole thing to a new level of surreality. If you're curious to know what Synchromorpheus was talking about there, I've been releasing this series over the past 6 or 7 weeks called Falling Down the Rabbit Hole, where I talk about so many of these connections that we see, particularly to do with this 3/11 event and how the coronavirus was characterized as a pandemic on 3/11/2020, and how this film Falling Down was released on the same day as the bombings at the World Trade Center, and the black monolith across from the World Trade Center has the phone number which has the date of that event encoded within it, as well as the year 2001, and this building looks like the black monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And then in the film Falling Down, we see the guy holding a bat in front of a Corona sign, bearing in mind that Corona supposedly happened because some guy ate a bat in China. And this all took place in a shop which the Falling Down, the main character Michael Douglas, decided to smash up because he was so annoyed at the shop owner, who was an immigrant who he accused of being from China. And then the shop owner was like, "I'm not from China, I'm Korean." And the Michael Douglas character was like, "I don't care." And then he just smashed the place up anyway. The point being, you've got this China connection to the bat in front of the Corona in a film called Falling Down that was released on the same day as the World Trade Center bombings, the phone number of which was encoded within the building, the black monolith sitting across from the World Trade Center on the day that this occurred. And so when I started looking into that, I discovered some other things, and I really did go tumbling down the rabbit hole. And that series is now up to 10 hours and counting, where I look at all of these different so-called coincidences that some people think is all scripted. And what I'm asking is, who do you think is scripting all of this? If it was one or two things, okay, maybe some bunch of humans are doing it. Once you get to 10 things, 20 things, 50 things, 100 things in different movies, TV shows, news stories, songs, even Super Bowls, at what point do you think maybe there's too much of this going on for it to just be a bunch of humans who are doing it? Now, if you'd like to know more about what I have to say about this 3/11 Corona bat Falling Down and so much more, there is a public available podcast available to you right now. This one has more than 800 listens so far, which is more than most of the Podbean uploads that I do. This one has more than 800 and growing by the day. This seems to be the most popular thing I've released so far this year, at least publicly. It's called a Sync Mist, where I talk about the people who you know around you. Can you talk with them about these kinds of topics? And if you can, what kind of responses do you get? And let me ask you, what's your response when I tell you what I've found with my 3/11 research? So all of that and so much more is available in Sync Mist, published about a month ago, and the link to that is also in the comment section below. Now, getting back to this Quantum Leap episode, my advice to anybody who's interested in this stuff is go and get your hands on a copy of this episode. It's called All American. It's from the early 1990s. It's from Season 2, Episode 14, I think, but don't quote me on that. Just look up All American Quantum Leap, go and check out the episode, watch it for yourself, see what you notice, and ask yourself, do you think it's just a coincidence? Probably you don't. Then ask yourself, do you think a bunch of humans scripted this? Maybe you do. Come back and let me know in the comment section below. Or maybe you're starting to see enough of these so-called coincidences to realize that it might not be a bunch of humans doing this. There might be a different explanation. So getting back to Tim Osman's tweet, and as I said, we agree on a lot of things, myself and Tim Osman. There are some things where we don't disagree, and that's cool. It's good to have different people with different opinions who can talk about these things in a cordial and constructive fashion. So I'm sure there are some people at johnlebon.com who are more towards Tim Osman's way of thinking. Maybe there are some people over at the Infinite Plane Society who are more towards my way of thinking. Maybe there are some people who are involved with neither the JLB or the Tim Osman online communities, if we can put it like that. But they might themselves think it's all humans doing this, or they might think there's something else going on. They might have a different explanation altogether. I'm hoping to hear from all of you in the comment section below on this here YouTube channel. So go and check out the comment section below. Leave your comments. Check the links. Like I said, the latest Late Night Truth Lounge is available, as is this Sync Missed episode, the most popular Podbean upload I've done all year so far. And of course, the tweets themselves. What do you think about the tweets? Go and check them out. All the links in the comment section below. And do leave your comments. And if you get a chance, go and check out this episode of Quantum Leap, which I've done and which I speak about in Falling Down the Rabbit Hole, 10 hours and counting of detailed, structured, well planned out, well researched material that's available for you right now at johnlebon.com. Link to that in the show notes below as well. Okay, everybody, bye-bye, ciao.
My wife says I repeat she says I don't listen at all anymore.
Yeah, fine. So what?
When you drink vodka, you just sound like this sad, lonely idiot.
Best place to go would be Florida. The Keys are lovely this time of year.
What you're experiencing is a free-form delusion based on our memory tapes. But you're inventing it yourself as you go along.